Hey, it's Dr. Klein. This is Bulletproof Your Back. And this is Phil. We're starting early because Phil said he had to get somewhere. Phil's got some notes for me. Phil wants me to talk about hip internal rotation. We talked about this last time. So the last two videos, definitely check those out after this, the Bulletproof Your Back ones. We were talking about the idea of anchoring. So we're going to look at the anatomy here on Phil. So thank you, Phil. I know you like to wear your pants. A couple of the anchoring muscles. The idea of anchoring is pulling the hip into the socket. So we have one muscle, the iliopsoas, attaches to the lumbar spine here, runs down, psoas to the ilium here, and they both go into the hip, femur bone, which helps pull in. It gives you that little bit of flexion past 90 degrees, if you will. It helps you bring it up a little bit higher. You might feel this muscle going up steps, but we used it kneeling last time, which is really powerful. It really helped that idea of, okay, let's squeeze from the hips, not necessarily from the knee. We don't want the knee, we don't want to go knock-kneed like that. So we call a varus knee. So the knee, it's good at flexing and extending, but it doesn't have a lot of rotation, and it doesn't have a lot of motion this way. That's more of the hip's job. So the knee tries to make up for the rigidity in the hips. Let me tell you, your hips are tight. You know, trust the guy who touches your back all the time. Very restricted. We're either using the motion in the lumbar spine here, or even in the sacroiliac joint to kind of help the hip out. But then we get back pain and irritation. It affects all our exercises, biking, weightlifting, all that stuff. So we want to really isolate hip motion. So we're going to go through some hip hinging exercises. We're doing a 10-minute video today. Yesterday, it's rough. But it's not going to feel bad to you until you understand this anchoring idea. The more you're able to get behind the idea of anchoring, pulling that hip into the socket, isolating the hip motion, that's when hip hinging is going to feel very difficult. It's going to feel rigid. And that's the other question Phil has for me. Phil says, where should you feel serratus anterior muscles? Hi, Jessica. How are you? Good. Serratus anterior muscles. I feel foundation training, and you might not feel it here right away, but in these muscles. Let's move a little closer, Phil, so they can see. They need to see, Phil. They need to understand. No, I didn't have coffee today. If you guys have questions, ask. Here, and the one that's not on here, serratus anterior, attaches to the ribs, goes to the medial portion, runs underneath your shoulder blade. All three of these, along with your diaphragm, which I don't think most people understand the diaphragm. It's a muscle. Attaches to the ribs here, but also these higher lumbar vertebrae. You can't see me. Get my squat in. Squat for the day. Attaches there. So all four of those muscles help expand 360 degrees of the rib cage. That's where I feel it. I feel it in the back muscles for sure. Feel the diaphragm working, because that's the idea of once we got the hips underneath us anchored, that's when we can do decompression of the spine, open up the rib cage, really target all that restriction. So this isn't not leaning back like everyone wants to do, which is extend, which pushes your hips forward, breaks your foundation, pulls the shoulder blades in. No, we want serratus anterior working to help kind of widen the shoulder blades, pull the shoulders out. That away. Serratus anterior pulling really hard. These are pulling on the ribs. They don't attach to the shoulder blade. They attach from the spinous of the vertebrae, attach to the ribs to help act like a Chinese finger trap. Depress the ribs, which is a good word. We want to open up the ribs, pulling here. So the shoulders might look like they're coming up, but we're not using the traps to do it. We're not using levator scapula to do it. We're targeting these muscles in the breathing. And then all the little multifidus muscles, the transversal spinalis muscles that we call the posterior chain. If you're, yoga can look very similar to foundation training. The difference is the posterior chain, the anchoring. Moving with your anchor, moving with the decompression, really makes these exercises different. So I hope that makes sense there with the knee and the hip. We're pulling the hip in Oh, that's another muscle we forgot. Thank you, Phil. I forgot about this muscle. Adductor runs from the pubic bone, mid-shaft. That's another muscle that's really helping pull the hip in. It's not pulling the knee in. Like last time we used that foam wedge or a ball right here below the knee. Why? Not so you would squeeze to activate, but to prevent the knee from going in. Because we want the squeeze up here in the hip, not down here in the knee. So we're going to use a chair just like we used the kneeling yesterday, just to simulate the same thing. Thank you, Phil. I think you're done. You did really good. You look great today. So, should have told you to grab a chair. I'll give you a second. I'll wait. There's only one of you watching anyway. Ah, there, right. There's three. There's three. Okay. Grab a chair. We'll sit in the chair. Run through some ideas on anchoring, and then we'll get into the workout. I promise. Let's lower this down so you can see me. Yay. And I'll back it up a little bit. So I want you to see. Don't go away now. There's only three of you. All right. So get your feet out. And we're going to kind of get to the edge of the chair a little bit. Can you see the feet? I think you can see the feet. Good. So I'm squeezing. So put your hands right on the outside of your knees. Opposite of what we did before now. So we're pushing the knees into the hands, while at the same time trying to pull the hips in. So it's those two different things. And then I like to dorsiflex, which is to bring your toes to your nose, but keep that pressure on the outside of the knees first. So you should feel that engagement kind of here. And just explore breathing there while you're holding that. So the dorsiflexion, a little pressure out on the knees, trying to get lengthened. You're not extending the spine, you're tightening in the diaphragm area, sucking your belly button into your lumbar spine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to glide the hand along the outer side of your leg muscles to the hip. We're going to trace up overhead with the thumb over the pec. We did this one last time. Sphere of tension behind you. Push it overhead. Coming back down. Hands back to the knees. That's fun, right? Just letting you think about your anchoring. So you can try this one when you're sitting at your desk. I don't think anyone's doing a lot of sitting right now, right? Everybody's out and active. Same thing. Big inhale, get tall with the inhale, suck in the belly with the inhale, chest inflates. Exhale, trace up nice and slow, elbows high. I think we did this one last time. Fingertips together, all 10. I was going to say 5. You got 10. Hopefully you got 10. Exhale, drive up overhead. And I'm kind of hinging forward a little bit. Let me give you the side view. So this is how I prefer you'd sit. Bashed my mic. Hopefully that's okay. Not back here, because then the hips are in front. We're trying to bring our torso over top of the hips, getting some tension on the hamstring by bringing the legs out a little bit. See the feet? Yeah, you can see the feet. And then we're tightening. You can feel that hinge happening right there. I'm going to show you another little trick to do this, but your shoulder hip straighter than they were before. I don't know if it's perfect. We're not going for perfection here. Just a little bit better than we were doing before. Dorsiflexing, which really helps pull those hips in. I don't want you to sit like that, obviously. This is just for the exercise. Pressing out, knees. So even if you do one of these every once in a while, or you're sitting at the desk, that really long breath is important. The long breath you'll feel all the way, kind of the skull lifts. Anchoring is, think of it like an anchor holding something down. It's holding your sacrum down. A lot of times our spine wants to extend. So no, we're anchoring that lower spine so it can't help you out there. A lot of people want to drive like this. They think this is good. But it flattens the neck curve out, creates too much curve in the lower back, just distorts everything. I don't know where that idea of good posture came from, but that is not good posture. Another little trick you can do is kind of like the kneeling founder, because I know a lot of people would need replacements. So if it hurts, kind of do this. So you're still kind of dorsiflexing, tucking the toes underneath you, squeezing, right? It's probably good from this angle, right? So you're squeezing. It's a little unladylike to get this wide, but that's what you want. Pulling in. You can see how I lengthen there. The neck too, and the neck is part of your spine. Pulling in, and this one almost feels like you're going to fall forward. So you can try long wing. So long wing is opening. Short wings here. We'll be doing those today. Sphere of tension out in the front. Oh, that's hard. Another good one you can do, just like we did last time, right? You can even do the platter. Again, you can see I wanted to compress my spine. Don't let that. Keep that tight. That's a battle. So you're thinking like, oh, these props, he's showing me easier ways to do things. No, using the prop, using the chair, it's tougher, but it's going to help you understand the concepts, what it feels like to pull that hip into the socket. Forces you not to use the knee. So you can even use your chair in the workouts we're about to do. Show you one more. Look at Phil's notes. Yeah, we're doing good, Phil. We got him. Last one. So you can use this one. Let me angle that up now. No, I'll leave it there. I'll just back up. Because we'll be doing a woodpecker exercise. So to help you decompress, you're going to push up and your front leg, front foot, pushing against the chair. So you're kind of holding the chair down, and that's going to prevent the knee from caving in, right? It depends on your chair. This one's a little metal and painful. Tightening or hinging, right? Just practice that. So first you're getting tall, you're hinging over the chair. Try a little arm raise. So you can try some of these ideas. Back up so you can see. Try some of these ideas while we're doing the workout. So keep your chair near you. It's not so you can compress on it. It's so you can decompress. It actually makes the workout harder. I think it's hard enough already doing 10 minutes of foundation training. But you'll notice that I shake a lot and tremor, and that's kind of what you want. You're not going to feel that right away. The better you get at this kind of stuff, you'll start to feel that more. All right. And then switch that up. Give you a different angle. Back toe. Lengthening, right? Not letting that knee go in because the chair is there stopping it. Getting tall. You can do this with a stability ball too. That kind of works. I think I have one here, but same idea with the stability ball. You'd put the outside foot against it and just kind of press into the ball. That would help you get some length, and that's going to prevent that knee from caving in and that hip from turning out. You'll notice the hip wants to turn out to the side. So having that knee in helps correct that idea. So instead of resting on the joints, we're opening up the joints, and that's where the anchor is. So we need that anchor, that decompression with the anchoring before we can begin the hinging. As otherwise the hinging will just kind of look like I don't feel it. I don't feel it, doc. My knee hurts. The pressure's in my knee now. Hurts my back, hurts my low back, hurts my knee. I don't want to do that foundation training. You're doing it wrong. You're approaching it wrong. You haven't understand the anchoring. You haven't done the decompression. That's why I'm spending so much time going over it to help you get it. So rewatch this video, the video before, and the video before that. And then come back, try this workout, and you'll feel more the tremoring and the shaking, the intensity of it. Oh, one last little thing Phil's reminding me here. Let me just move you around. Doo-doo-doo. That's why I got an early start, so I could just be silly here. So what I want, what a girl needs. Phil, you're in the way. Something you could hook your feet under to help feel that iliopsoas length. And then I promise we'll start the workout. So I got my feet a little wide, locked underneath something. Do like the prisoner, hands behind the head, and just come back just a little bit. And you'll feel that tension. Keep your spine really straight. That's that kind of anchoring activation. I like to actually kind of go a little bit to the right so you're you're keeping, by holding with your feet, you're keeping those hips in, but you're not letting the knees go, right? Because then you can see how your body compresses. So the knees stay out, but we got that squeeze as we come back. And you should feel this kind of here. It might feel like your abs. That's actually that deep hip flexor working and that adductor muscle we showed before. So I like to go a little bit to the right. Ooh, and that hits the external rotators, almost like a massage, so that piriformis wants to turn the hips out. We're coming here, we go a little right, pull back up. So it's keeping, it's working those iliopsoas muscles, but it's working them in a lengthened position. Eccentric contraction. I just did a couple of these the other day. Oh, it burns. So anyone who's like me, who has the cheerleader type posture, also known as lower cross syndrome, you might get popping in the hips. I forget what the workout was. It involved mountain climbers, where you're on your hands and knees doing these, and my hips were popping. So I noticed that's the cure, because the hips are popping. They're too turned out. Turned out. Diastasis recti alternative. The chair stuff is good. That one, maybe not do, or maybe just don't go back as far. Yeah, be careful with that one, because that one can be a little tough. So maybe just, that's all you need. Don't need to, I'm not going way back either. Just a little bit of tension back. A little bit of tension, just be careful. And breathe with it too, so. Just, I can feel that little bit of shake, little tremor, then I come back. Because you're keeping it protected, right? You're not extending, it's forcing you. It's actually probably better than doing sit-ups, all right? This is not like a crunch. Crunch, you're really rounded. So I think you'd be okay. No promises. All right, let's do this workout. But, good alternatives is foundation training. I just want you to feel it. But that helps the clicking in my hips when I do that. Gets that click out of there. But other posture types, get out of the way. I thought you had to go somewhere. All right, I think that should be good. Hopefully you can see my head. Let's roll. I need water before this workout. Take some water, everyone get a break, because this is 10 minutes, and it's just gonna go, and it's gonna be terrible, and you're gonna love it. Hypervolt's really good, working those external rotators. No matter if there's weak muscle, there's tight muscle usually. Don't blame the tight muscle. I think that's why I focus mainly on strengthening the weakness. But sometimes, maybe we'll do foam rolling next time. You can barely see my head. Let's back that up a little bit. I want you to see everything. Okay. There we go. Breaking up the tight muscle will help you activate the weaker muscle. They're what we call our antagonists. It's like if you overwork your bicep all the time, it's going to affect the joint. You won't be able to straighten your elbow anymore. So yeah, we need to stretch the bicep a little bit, but we also need to strengthen the tricep. Same with the spine. 10 minutes, 8 seconds. All right, let's do it.
Now we're going to focus on making sure that we keep the chest broad, the spine extended, and the chin back throughout this hinge movement. We're going to start in a hip width founder, making sure that the legs, the feet are in a parallel stance. Start to bring the hands into a measure stick position and draw the weight back into the heels, coming into your hinge. Keep the chin back and the chest up. Give me 2 breath cycles right there. Working on the anchor, working the expansion of the chest, maintain the length of the spine. The arms are going to move into the open wing position for 2 breath cycles here, pulling the hinge back while maintaining a structure that's real stable throughout each segment of the vertebrae. Big breath cycles. Going to scoop those arms forward in the founder. Press all 10 fingertips together, pull the chin back, really work in the expansion across the chest to the front and the back of the shoulders. Maintain the width across and around the rib cage. After you've completed a good 2 to 3 more breath cycles here, you would bring the hands into the short wing position. In this set, we're going to keep the arms in this position to help facilitate the broadening across the chest and the back. Maintain the spinal column and come out of the founder position into a hinge and back into
Pull
the hinge
yourself
position.
up. Remember, use those hip flexors.
Slow, controlled hinges.
Talked about that last
Pulling
time.
the hips back, maintaining stability through the spine as you move just from the hip joint.
Going up should almost be tougher
we'll come back into the founder.
than going down into the hinge.
Both hands will come forward. You'll go into that sphere of tension, chest height, and then pull on those two ends, creating distance. Big breath cycle. Breathe in deep. And as you exhale, you'll come out of that, back into that short wing, draw the heels toward each other, and stand.
Good.
We're going to be traveling now
Lift
into a
yourself.
woodpecker. Left foot forward, right foot back. Good stance. Parallel legs. Keep them narrow to your own hip width. Hands start in a measure stick. 1. Good breath cycle here. Hinging the left hip back into your woodpecker. Holding. And again, we're going to focus on keeping the chest broad.
A little
the chin pulled
rotation
back,
too.
Hinging from the hip joint. Both arms come back into your open wing position. Good breath cycle here. Pull the abdominals in away from the waistband and bring the arms forward into the half sphere or full sphere of tension here. The arms can rise to facilitate a little bit more lift, a little bit more work into that upper thoracic extension. Big breath here. Tighten the abdominals as you exhale. Maintain that. Take a bigger breath, wider across the back and shoulders. Exhale. Maintain any width you've gained there. Bringing us into our hinges from here. Hands come into short wing. We're going to maintain that short wing, work on expansion of chest, and lift up coming out of the hinge, going right back into 5 good, solid, slow, integrated hinges. Checking in on the back foot, making sure that there's no sickle rotation or that the heel hasn't dropped or too high. We're going to press in on that back ball of foot just a little, keeping weight distributed over that front knee. As you finish your 5th one, take it back out into a woodpecker. Give it a good breath cycle, pulling the chin back, maintaining that expansion across the chest and back. The arms will come back to open wing. Going to step forward, and then we'll change legs. Left foot back, right foot forward.
Pulling yourself up.
Parallel stance.
Don't let your hip drop.
It's going to be very challenging.
Lengthen,
Out of line,
step
we're
back.
making it imbalanced as well. You're going to shift the weight to that front leg, hands in measure sticks. Inhale, chin back, chest up. 2 big breath cycles there. The arms are going to come into that open wing position. Inhale here, drawing the chin back, maintaining that thoracic extension. Arms are going to scoop forward, coming into the sphere of tension. Chest stays broad, pulling the chin back. Keep the weight equally distributed over that front right heel and down into it, pulling that right hip up and back. From here, we'll go into our woodpecker integrated hinges. Hands come to a short wing. They're going to maintain that short wing position. You'll come out of the hinge and travel back into the hinge. Maintain spinal stability, not letting the head, the neck move, any of the vertebrae through the thoracic area or the lumbar, the waist area. They maintain stability.
Keep your shoulders down.
Check that back foot. I'm going to have you drop the heel back just a little bit. You're going to hold at the end of that last hinge and bring the arms out into that sphere of tension. Hold for a good breath cycle. Arms can rise to increase that tension. A little bit more. Arms come back into open wing position and step forward. We're going to do another set, wide founders this time.
You're halfway. Wide.
Going to make sure that you're maintain that parallel line. Going to grab the floor and start anchoring, hands in measure sticks.
Anchor.
Hinge back, taking yourself
Pulling
to that
in.
founder. Grab the floor,
Hinge.
weight stays distributed through the heels. Bring the arms into your open wing position, and then right away out into sphere of tension. And we're going to challenge Dustin and make him bring his arms all the way up for a good solid 4 breath cycles. Breathing big, slow, big inhales. Increase the expansion across the back. And as you exhale, tighten the abdominals away from your waistband and create that length. Another little pull. Try to create a little distance between those 2 distal points of hands and hips. From here, we're going to go into our integrated hinges and use a counterbalance. Hands will come to the chest. As you come out of it, stand all the way
Fall
up.
backwards.
And as you hinge out, you'll counterbalance, sending your arms forward and come right back up. 5 slow, concentrated hinges. Grab the floor, keeping a good solid anchor. The hips stay back, away from the heels.
Oh, cheeky.
Once you complete 5, you'll hold here in a solid founder and lift the arms, challenging, pulling those 2 distal points.
I'll get there, don't worry.
Inhale, big, big, big breath cycles. Exhale all the air out. On your last breath cycle, you'll be bringing the arms back to your long wing position. Draw the heels to the floor, anchor with the feet, and stand. Back into our woodpeckers. Left foot forward, right foot back.
Left foot forward.
Hands to measure sticks. Right away, hinge that left hip back. Chest pulls forward.
Told you it was terrible.
You're going to press down into that heel. Hands come into open wing, and then right away up into our sphere tension, and we're going to work our second set.
Feels great when you're done, don't worry.
The abdominals in. Check to make sure that that right hip is squared and even. It tends to flap open, and we want to really close that in.
Sometimes I'll turn to the left, and that'll set the right hip.
From here, we go into our integrated hinges, and we're going to use the counterbalance.
Just a little bit of rotation.
Hands come to the chest, come out of the hinge, and as you extend that left hip back, the arms are going to counterbalance and give you more leverage to press into that glute. 5 total. Use your breath. Keep the chin back and the chest elevated, lifted. Back of the extensors lifted in the back of the lung.
Tight.
You'll hold in this woodpecker, arms rise for breath. Big solid breath in.
I think I missed one.
Arms come back to open wing, step forward, and change legs.
I'm allowed to cheat. You aren't. You should be able to see that imprint of your foot here in the mat. That's how you know you're right.
Hinge that right hip back.
So
bring weight over that right knee, bending it just a bit to drive down into that heel. Arms come into open wing.
And
take a breath there as you scoop those arms forward.
Once you're up,
we're going to hold for those 4 breath cycles there.
Try rotating a little bit to the right.
Left hip needs to come around just a bit. Big breath cycles here. Keeping the weight through that right heel, grabbing with the floor to really feel the anchor of that front leg. You'll bring it back to center. Hands will come into that short wing position, and you're going to come up out of the hinge, right into balance on. May bring the chest forward, and you want to recognize that and make sure that you keep this broad and open, both the front of the chest, the back of the shoulders, the width around the ribs. As you finish your 5th one, you'll hold. Now, instead of stepping forward, he's going to bring his back leg forward and hold into a founder.
Founder.
Bring the legs fairly narrow.
Go narrow.
Squeeze the legs in toward each other and press back into a good solid founder here. This is a narrow stance. You're going to be working the anchor, pulling the hips back, giving you a strong breath cycle, one with the arms a little higher to get into those upper thoracic areas again. Here, and from this, come out of the hinge into a standing decompression. The hips still in a small hinge here, and you're going to work the lift and relax the tension in the throat. Inhale, lengthen the back of the neck. Press a little on that pinky finger to really focus on the back of the lats.
Oh, the lats.
Arms are going to release and come back down to open wing.
Oh. So yeah. You might feel one side, I was feeling the right side more. Kind of that serratus area like we pointed out. Probably because you're imbalanced, but this will, bring symmetry to your body. So the rest of the day you're moving a little bit better. You've talked to your hips. Now your hips are going to support your spine better throughout the day. A couple of points, I think we talked about it before. The 3 points of contact: ball, the big toe, ball, the little toe, and the heel are your 3 points. Just like the sphere of tension, you're gripping the ground. So especially on the woodpecker, you're putting that weight forward. They're digging into there. So not just bunching the foot, it's not bunching and rotating out. We're keeping that knee lined up. What I was trying to say with the hip is the hips tend to drop, rotate out to that side. So yeah, lengthen, come up, then rotate a little bit off to the same side as the front side. So to me, it would be my right side. And then go up. And that should actually level your hip out. So it's a little bit of a spiraling of the spine, but then you can try to just keep that. It kind of works one side of the posterior chain. That's good. So it's that hinge is, you should feel a burn. That's one way to know it, right? Because you're stretching that piriformis muscle we talked about before by not just resting on the joint where the knee is forward, but you watch the knee as I hinge, it pulls that knee backwards. Tension starts to increase there. Also in the hamstrings down the back of the legs, chest comes high. Then I think about the neck last. So for me, it's lengthening. What you're saying about the abs helps me. Some people think abs too soon. They're like, they squeeze and they tuck, and then they do this, so that's flatten out the lower back. Always think lengthen first before you really think about any type of pelvic tilt. Getting that in there, for me, I know I need to squeeze and tuck a little bit, but I don't want to ruin that length, and it shouldn't look like my lumbar spine is reversed. We always want to keep that curve. Same with the neck. We don't want to flatten that neck curve out. That's why she says neck last, because it's impossible then if I hinge, I'm here, and I'm here, and then she says flatten out the neck curve. It's kind of impossible for me to do it if everything else is stacked as it should be. So I would say neck last. A lot of us posture-wise, we think about the neck first. You do that, pelvic structure comes forward. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're actually adding to compression of your spine. And this doesn't even fix your shoulders. It feels like it does, but your shoulders are really turned in. So some of the people who stand like that have the most rigid and tight internal rotation of the shoulder. As the shoulder blade comes back, like, you know, we're pinching the shoulder blades, the shoulder blade comes back, but not the glenohumeral joint. Phil, so glad you're still here. Let's talk about that. We got time. Any questions, guys? Good, glad you're watching. So there's a difference between this isolated motion. We just talked about hip isolated motion. So shoulder, same idea. It tends to do the opposite of the hip. Shoulder tends to internally rotate, whereas the hip tends to externally rotate. Not the case for everyone. I'll get down here so you can see me. So if the shoulder blades are coming back, it doesn't necessarily mean that we've worked the glenohumeral joint externally. It can still really turn in, because as the shoulder blades come back, the chest tends to drop and cave. So Phil's doing this. He's pushing his hips forward. He's pretty stiff, Phil. He's like a chiropractor or something. So the chest is going to drop. Shoulders are going to be turned in, but it's not going to look like they are. That's the trick. Usually when you lay on the table, we know. A lot of people who don't look rounded in the mid-back, as soon as they lay down, why? Because head, shoulder, hips are suddenly forced to be level on a flat table. So video one, we did a lot of groundwork, we had Dr. Daniel laying on the ground. That can help you understand the anchor, but it also locks the shoulders to the ground when you're on your back. So breathing, the shoulders won't rise. You'll be able to engage that diaphragm, breathing a little bit more. That's good. And you'll be able to work that isolated external rotation of the glenohumeral joint, because the shoulder blades can't really move against the floor that well. You can force it to move, but the floor is going to help keep them there. And then when you're standing, you can start working on that serratus anterior muscle a little bit more, and that's going to help pull. That's the muscle that pulls the shoulder blades wide, which almost feels like rounding at first. If you watch me, I have different cues than other people have, but I'll actually kind of pull the shoulder blades wide. I get them wide, and that helps me engage my iliopsoas when I do the measuring stick hands. And then I think about, okay, now I got a good anchor. My feet are gripping. Now I can try to lengthen out of that. Now I think about the neck. And that's when I feel everything kind of, shift backwards. And that's even before I fell backwards, but that's the goal, is stacking your weight into your heels. You notice your feet will come up a little bit. And that's a trick I've heard yoga instructors say before too, is if your weight's too in your toes, I mean, you should be able to dorsiflex. So if it's really hard to dorsiflex, your weight's not shifted right. So if you're doing the founder and you're doing it, think about, okay, try to raise your feet. Okay, that's a little hard. I can't really hold that. Should be able to kind of hold it a little bit if we get it stacked right. So when I'm here, I can kind of almost just hover those in the air, right? Because my weight's in my heels. Good little tips to help you get more out of this. Like I said, I'm shaky. I felt so much tension in these muscles, these serratus muscles when I was doing it. A lot of tension for me here. They're called serratus because they look like a serrated knife. Kind of got like that tooth formation. Same thing because they attach to ribs. Spine to the ribs. A lot of times in cadaver studies, these muscles were shown to be atrophied because they are accessory breathing muscles, but they're the ones we don't use. A lot of people play to using the traps, pec minor, accessory breathing muscle, because that one runs here to the ribs, helps lift. But if we're always breathing from them, like the SCM and the scalenes all the time, that's where headaches come from. Think about 30,000 breaths a day done wrong. Yeah, it's going to lead to tension, headaches, suboccipitals. When we say lift the skull, you should feel that tension there. I feel this is one of the few exercises that really frees that suboccipital area up. Chiropractors, no, we're always digging there. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so tight. Those guys, that's that lifting of the skull. It's the back of the skull that's lifting. We're not lifting the front of the skull. We're not going into extension. We're lifting the back of the skull, like, you know, you got like a marionette. Someone's got you by the back of the head, lifting you up. So that's going to help those areas. Because if we're breathing from our accessory neck muscles all the time, the diaphragm's going to get weaker. These guys are going to get weaker. They're going to forget how to work and activate, and you're going to overdevelop other muscles. So it's like doing 30,000 little shoulder shrugs a day. It adds up. Give it 10, 20, 30 years, you've created muscle imbalance. That's hard to break through, because even if we're adjusting the neck chiropractic-wise, the muscle imbalance still exists. So it can repattern your curve even if you get adjusted. And sometimes things are so locked up that we can't even adjust it because there's so much muscle imbalance, and it's not necessarily, you know, this is active stretching. So we're stretching the tight muscle while strengthening the weak muscle. So it's that wall you'll feel. So whenever I get everything going, I'll notice that it's at kind of like end range where that tight muscle is fully stretched and that shake happens when we're using that weak muscle. The weak muscle that's usually inhibited, it's finally get some activation. It's trying to work. It's trying to fight against that tight muscle. That's the best of both worlds because you're stretching and strengthening at the same time. It's just kind of that everywhere, whole body, because we all have lots of imbalance. The major thing we're missing, the common thread, because I used to study all different posture types and I tried to label people. That is important. If you watch the posture report, I do that. I go through some of the different posture types. But it's mainly think about lengthening first. Forget about pelvic tilt to last. Everyone wants to think, okay, first I got to tuck the pelvis in. No, first you got to engage the anchor, decompress. Then you can think about, like I said, you know, think about those abs and that little tuck I need, because when I normally stand, it's, you know, exaggerating, but a lot of anterior pelvic tilt. I used to do this because I thought that was good posture, but it just disengages my hips. So lots of lower back pain, lots of shoulder pain, a lot of foot pain, so many different symptoms, all coming from how I was holding myself, how I was approaching movement, little things like breathing. It's the basic stuff. It's not like, no, don't have to go out and do 100 burpees. This will help you do 100 burpees better, without hip popping, without pain. A lot of people keep telling me I can't work out because it hurts, so I just stop working out. It's not the solution. You need to do something. You just need to rechange your approach to working out. A little phone call there. Don't call me while I'm doing videos. Is that you, Phil? I guess Phil's saying we're done. Thanks for coming by, guys. We'll try to do some more of these live videos. We're here today. I guess we're essential. You know why we're essential? You know why this is essential too? It's going to keep you out of the hospitals and ERs. Neck pain, headaches, back pain, sciatica. You don't want to go there. If we got cases of corona there, that's not where you want to be. So coming here, doing your foundation training, doing your exercise, getting out there, getting some fresh air, keep space from people, it's going to help keep you out of the hospitals, because they don't need that right now. So focus on this stuff. So we're still here, still adjusting people, cleaning the tables literally after every person. And it's stressful, but we're here and to help you relieve stress, because stress is the #1 killer. No matter what you say. It's not the corona, it's stress that's the #1 killer. So if we can remove, that's one for us, because that's going to help emotional and immunological stress. You know, that's your gut right there. And the diaphragm has a lot to do with gut. You know, stomach goes through it. We have the vagus nerve, all connected to the enteric nervous system. It's like your second brain. You know, the gut feeling you have, that's your immune system. There's an intelligence there. So a lot of what we're doing, we're targeting this area. So that's one thing I noticed is gut health increased so much doing foundation training. So I used to have a lot of pathological stress. I had random like diseases. I got shingles at like 27. And it wasn't so much mental stress, it was just physical mechanical stress. It is stress, just what type of stress is it? So the more you remove mechanical stress, it's going to help you there. So that breathing pumps cerebral spinal fluid, takes stress off the nerve roots, opens up the disc space. It's a really great healer. It's healing, it's literally healing from the inside out. That's one of the few things we can say can really do that. You know, chiropractic is supposed to help facilitate that, get the spine symmetry so you can breathe correctly. So you can't, I gotta like, amazing. But thanks guys, that's our goal here. We're staying open for now. Come see me and Phil. I think Phil's gonna go to the liquor store. Don't have too much, buddy. Gotta stay healthy. All right guys, time to open up shop. Take care. Any questions, leave them down below. Watch the other 2 live videos to help you understand that anchoring and decompression, because I'm gonna stop beating that dead horse now. We're going to focus on other things and other videos. I think those are 3 videos that really helped hit it from all different angles to help you understand getting that hip in there to make foundation training work for you. Because if you're not feeling it or if you're feeling pain, not doing it right, right? Good.